Well, listen, thank you very much for doing this, Rashawn. It means so much to me. Like I've, I'm sure you've heard it all before, but I've been such a fan of Hook since I was a little kid. I feel like we're around the same age. I'll be 42 at the end of May.
Oh, okay, yeah, I just turned, I guess, 44, but I'm a lost boy, so I'll be 10 forever.
There you go. Yeah, perfect. And I remember as a kid going to the movie theater and seeing the movie, and I remember specifically the Lost Boys, and and being able to relate to them because I was like a similar age to the kids that were in it.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, I don't know, it just kind of made me feel like any normal kid can be a hero. You know what I mean? Like being
Yeah, oh, yeah.
a normal kid that's been pulled from somewhere and put to Neverland, and then all of a sudden you just like you have this magic power that you're never going to grow old, and
Yeah.
you're going to be a warrior. And I always took something from that. So it genuinely is. It's such a thrill to talk to you because you
Oh,
are
thank
one of the
you.
Lost Boys. So yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, literally making that movie. Um, I think Steven Spielberg, well, he's magical. He was magical every day on the set, but he made us feel like that, or at least he made me feel like that. Like you could do anything and be anybody you wanted to be. And he kept that magic and the mystique on the set of the
yeah, for
movie at
sure.
all times. So that was so cool.
Yeah, I'd seen a few interviews that you've done, and you talk very highly of Spielberg and how
Oh yeah.
he really treated you particularly really well.
Oh, very, very. Oh my God. Yeah, very. Like I grew up in the entertainment business. My dad was a famous entertainer, and I grew up. I was only around adults all of my life. I'm only around adults now, and it felt good because he talked to me. He never talked to me like a child. He always talked to me like I was like
A
versus him. It
professional.
was nothing. It was just always really cool. It was a lot of love, and it was awesome.
Is it true that he actually let you direct the scene as well?
Yeah, so I ask a lot of questions. I'm one of those people, and I do that to this day. When I meet a director, especially a famous director, and I've worked with a lot of famous directors, and I can't remember every famous director I work with, but from like ER and Family Matters and Tales from the Crypt, and working with just so many incredible directors. But I remember all their previous stuff, and I worked with the late great Bill Paxton, and
Wow.
Bill Paxton was in what he was in. Well, my favorite movie with Bill Paxton was Weird Science.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
My older brothers, because I have five older brothers. They're all like 5, 10, 15 years older than me. But I grew up watching those movies, and we would get them on VHS, and it was just so incredible, so cool, so amazing. And we would just watch those movies, and then I always wanted to be in a movie or a show or something with them, and it's just so crazy that my life has been like a 360 that I got to work with. I literally have worked with every producer, director, and actor from my childhood that I always wanted to work with, and I don't take it for granted. It's just incredible that I've got to work with all of them,
Yeah, that's
and
incredible. Not many
you
people
know,
can say that.
yeah, I know, right? Like I didn't think about that until like a couple of weeks ago because I'm like, man, because people always ask me all the time. They'll say, "Well, you only did the Hook film. Why didn't you do anything else?" And I'm like, "No, I did dozens of television commercials. I did ER. I did Family Matters. I did Tales from the Crypt, Hanging with Mr. Cooper. I did America's Funniest People. I worked
Yeah.
on Nickelodeon, Wild and Crazy Kids, the Secret World of Alex Mack. I was
I
on
used
the
to love that
original."
show.
Yeah, I was on the original Secret World of Alex Mack cast. I know all those people from Nickelodeon, so it's just crazy. But my goal in life since I was 2.5 years old was to work with Steven Spielberg. So I worked with him on Hook, and I worked with him on ER. So it's just cool looking back. I'm like, I got everything I wanted. I did all those fun shows. So I had
Yeah,
a
for
I had a
sure. Yeah.
blast.
So like talking about like Hawk, do you remember being like how much do you remember of being on set? Like did you
Oh,
take
so
it
I'm not
in?
like one of those kids that says like I remember bits and pieces. I remember everything. I have a great memory.
Wow.
I even remember. I know this sounds insane. I remember when I was born.
Oh,
I
see,
used to
now there's a
scare
small
my
percentage.
parents.
There's a
I
small
remember.
percentage of people that can remember that, but not many people can.
Yeah, I remember all that, but I rem I literally on the set of Hook, I remember every little nook and cranny of being on the set of that movie. I remember all the crazy scenes, all the outtakes. I remember it all.
That's so cool. So, what's like a standout moment from that? If you had to choose one, what's like the one
Almost
thing?
impossible. Everything for me was standout because I was originally hired to just work for one day and say one line.
Really?
And my opening line was "Who's the shrub?" And that's the opening scene where Robin Williams comes out of the ocean, and the mermaids give him mouth to mouth and oxygen, and he comes out, and my character is in a barrel and hits him, and he flips up in the air, and then the barrel flowers open, and I go, "Who's the shrub?" So I remember all of that and everything that happened that day. That day changed my life forever. And Steven Spielberg came up to me that day and said my life was changed forever. And it's true. No matter how many haters or people say stuff to it, really changed my life, my trajectory. So just incredible.
Yeah, it's lovely to hear you talk so highly of the film and everyone that you worked with because, you've obviously it's been years since the movie since you
Yeah.
filmed it. You're an adult now, and like obviously you've been hammered over the years with questions about this film. But it's almost like you've never been asked them before because you're so enthusiastic about talking about it. Which just as a fan, it's really nice to hear you speak so highly of it.
Yeah, it was I've been on a bunch of sets. My favorite set of all time will always probably be Hook with all the directors and stuff. That set was it was a magical set. It was a set where you didn't know, we got to, I think Steven Spielberg came to work. I would always say his money green Mercedes. He would show up if I got there at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. He would show up around the same time in this beautiful Mercedes, like it was like a drop top Mercedes, and he would show up to set. And I'm one of those weird people where I had to go to school every day. All the kids had to go to school, but I would sit in the little. It was like a little bungalow, a little schoolhouse, and all the other kids just wanted to do their schoolwork. I would look out the window every morning just to see him drive up, park his car, look around, smile, and walk onto set. And then, we didn't start for like maybe an hour to 2 hours after he got there. And they would pull us from the school, the little schoolhouse, and then go and do our lines. But it was just so magical. I never saw, I saw Robin Williams, I saw Dustin Hoffman, I saw Julia Roberts, I saw Bob Hoskins, I saw all the other characters go to lunch, go to breakfast, go to dinner, go and get coffee. But Steven Spielberg was so magical that you never saw him unless he showed up, parked his car. You would go to the set and wouldn't see him. He would magically somehow, he was like a Michael Jackson. He would magically show up to the set. He would direct you in the scenes. And then if you had to take a 5 or 10 minute break, he would disappear. He was gone away from the camera. He was gone away from the cast and crew. If you went to lunch, you never saw him. He just vanished. Um, People like Sean Connery, uh, who I mean, it's a slew of people. Um, Sean Connery, Tom Cruise. They would literally come up to me on set, say, "Excuse me, you're the Lost Boy," and I'd say, "Yeah." Like Tom Cruise, I'd say, "I'm Rashawn." He'd say, "Yeah, I know who you are. Do you know where Steven is?" And I'd be like, "I think so. He's around there." And women would faint, at Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruise would look at me and say, "Can you show me?" And different women, like the mothers of the kids, would be like, "I could show you how to get there." And Tom would be like, "No, my buddy Rashawn's going to take me to meet or see Steven." And it was magical. And then Steven would just magically show up and chit chat with them. So just real magic on the set. Only set,
Yeah.
I hope next time I direct something, I could be magical like that, or, leave it to the people. But Steven was just like a real magician. I don't know if he did that purposely or he just did that for the heck of it. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, all his work is magical. Everything that he does, it's like it turns to gold, and it's pure magic. So yeah, I can
Yeah,
believe that he's just like that in real life as well. It makes total
yeah.
sense. So, in terms of the kids that you worked with, did you get on with all the other Lost Boys? Were you guys actually close, or was it just a job and you guys didn't really like each other, or like how did that play out?
Funny that you asked me that. So I used to do like podcasts back before podcasts were like popular,
Yeah,
and I would tell people the truth, and a lot of people would edit it out. So I never had a problem with any of the kids on set, but I originally auditioned for the movie maybe 6 to 9 months before the movie started shooting. And I was brought in as the character named Ziggy. And I went to the audition, I think it was in North Hollywood, California. And when I got there, they gave me the script, which I think I have one script left that I'm actually selling because I've been selling a lot of my scripts to help me help raise money for the new movie that I'm doing called Hook versus Neverland. But anyways, I auditioned for the role. I think I got the role, but they asked me a very important question. They asked me, would I be willing to go up in a treehouse that was 300 feet in the air and say my lines to Peter Pan? And I said, no, I can't do the lines. If you want me to do the lines, why can't we just shoot it on the floor? Because I'm terrified of heights.
yeah.
If we shoot it on the floor, the audience wouldn't know if we're up in a tree house or not. And so they just kind of like told me, all right, well, never mind. You're afraid of heights. Go. And I was only 9 years old. So
Ah, it's terrible.
I left the audition. I was really mad. I was like, man, I didn't get the part. Maybe I should have said I could do the treehouse scene. But luckily, 6 to 9 months later, they contacted me back by accident and said that Steven Spielberg was going to remove one of the kids and that they made changes. And the changes were that the role of Ziggy would now be named Pockets, and they added a new character in called Thud Butt. And I thought that was the weirdest name. And they brought me to the set, and they had me audition literally playing basketball. And they brought in two or three other kids that I remember. We all looked the same, but we were audition like literally different nationalities.
Okay.
One kid was like Hispanic, one kid was Filipino or something, and they had us play basketball. And none of us won or lost. We couldn't play basketball. We were like, little short kids, like 4'9", 4'10", weighing over 200 pounds. And then they had us do backflips on a karate mat. And Steven Spielberg walked up, and none of the other kids knew who Steven Spielberg was. But since I was 2.5, 3 years old, I told my parents my biggest goal in life was to do a movie with Steven Spielberg because Steven Spielberg did E.T. But none of the other kids, they didn't know that. I grew up having a VCR. We were, in my family, we were the only people on our block that had a VCR. So all I ever watched was E.T., and I watched the behind the scenes of Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Oh yeah.
So I learned from watching that how a movie is directed, how everything is done. So I met Steven Spielberg that day. All the other kids were playing around. The minute I saw Steven Spielberg, I immediately engaged him and tried to smile at him and talk to him. And he asked me, which one of you kids has stars in your eyes? And I didn't know what to say or do. And none of the other kids, they didn't care. They just wanted to play around. So I went up to Steven and I went right up to his face and I smiled and I was like, I have stars in my eyes. And I was like, and Steven tried to grab my arm and his handler or agent or producer said, no, 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 let him go. You know, it was nice seeing you guys. And all the kids left. And my parents my dad had spent like $1,000 to get that early 90s giant, it was like a giant backpack cell phone from, I think, AT&T.
Okay.
And my agent called 15 minutes after we left the studio and said that I was cast in the movie.
Wow.
And I had to go back the very next day to wardrobe and then I got my script, and I'll never forget, like, they had a bunch of these scripts, and my mom grabbed all the scripts, and she was like, "This movie's gonna be big. You're gonna take all these scripts, and one day you're gonna sell them." And I was just like, "Ah, whatever." And, they put me in my costume. We went for, like, a rehearsal or something, and a lady came up to me, and she was like, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you here for?" And I said, "I'm gonna be a lost boy." And she said, "What's the role?" And I said, "Thud Butt." And she said, "Well, that's weird. My son." And her son came up, and the son was like, "I'm Thud Butt." And she was like, "Why are you Thud Butt?" And I said, "Well, maybe there's going to be two Thud Butts. You know, two Thud Butts are better than one Thud Butt." And I had no idea what was going on, but there was a giant glass, like a giant, it was like a giant studio. And this studio was the studio, it was the London set where Robin goes into the house and sees Wendy and he takes the
Oh yeah.
kids. But downstairs, you could see through the glass, and they brought the little boy and his mom up, and they talked to them and they sent them home. But I didn't know what was going on. And then, like, a handler came back and was like, "You're Thud, but you're going to be starting tomorrow. You got to learn these lines." And it was the one line where I
Oh
say,
yeah.
"Who's the shrub?" And that was my only line in the movie. And I didn't care. I was just excited just to be in a movie because I'd done a couple of, like, really small independent movies that were like 50 grand, 100 grand. But I was so happy to get that role. And I showed up to set every day. And it wasn't until the third day that Steven finally used me. And I got to say that one line, "Who's the shrub?" And changed the, changed my life, basically. And
Yeah.
Steven basically told me every single day, like, "I like you. I'll bring you back tomorrow." And they just kept bringing me back every day, every day, every day. And that's how I got all those lines in the movie because I literally just had the one line.
That's so cool. Yeah. So you basically proved yourself every time. You
Yeah,
earned
so
those lines, you earned
so
them.
I never had a full script. I just had the one line, but they brought me back every day for like 7 months.
And it's funny because, like, aside from Rufio, your character is the most memorable in The Lost Boys. Like, for me, anyway.
Okay. Yeah, it
Like,
was just
because you were just like, it was like Rufio and you, and then all the others. Like, no, I'm no disrespect to the others. I couldn't tell
yeah,
you the names. I can recognize their faces, but I don't remember their lines. I just remember you and Rufio being the two main ones. And that
yeah,
may be because you were handed the sword. That may be one of the reasons why that I'm like, oh, you were like a leader because you got the
yeah.
sword. Is it true that you didn't know that you were going to get handed the sword?
Yes, so I literally didn't know anything from working on the movie every single day. I didn't know anything. I honestly never cared about getting the sword. The sword wasn't even written into the script. So the sword whole deal was I came to the set every day. And no disrespect to any of the kids in the movie. Some of the kids, I don't know if they are still mad at me. I didn't do anything. Some of the kids, um, their roles were from the original plays and the original cartoons and the original script of Hook. They
Okay.
had huge parts. Some of the kids, not all of them, but some of the kids were saying some really rude and racist stuff to me. It wasn't any of the adults. It wasn't like Robin or Dustin or Julia Roberts or Bob Hoskins. They were wonderful people, but some of the kids were saying some really horrific things to me on the set. Well, they would say these things while Steven Spielberg was standing there behind the camera. So while they were saying these really mean, terrible things to me, I would literally tear up and cry. And I didn't want to fight any of the kids. I just was happy to be in this big movie. So Steven Steven Spielberg, he would literally just be like, I won't say their names, but he would just tell a kid, like, after they said something really rude to me, he'd say, "Hey, what's your line for the next part?" And the little kid would be like 10, 12 years old, and they have their script, or a few pages of script. And Steven would say, "You know what? Hand your script to Rashawn and just let him do it." So I didn't even want to do it. I was scared. And those same kids would, stand back and do like a thing to me like that. And
Yeah.
so I would learn their script And at that time, my mind was so sharp. I would learn their role in like 15 minutes, and then we would reshoot the whole scene. And so that's why in the movie, unfortunately, that a lot of the main characters from the books and the plays and all that didn't say any of those lines. It was me.
Ah, okay.
and and they literally just changed it, and it blew my mind. I was scared the whole time, and I didn't want to do it. And Steven would just come up to me and say, like, you feel a little uncomfortable, and I would say, yeah, and he would say, don't worry about them. I think it would be better if you did it. So I just wound up doing their lines, and that was the movie. And then every morning, I think at 5 or 6 a.m., I would get a script sent to my house. Back in those days, there was no email. A guy would just come to my house at 5:30 or 6 in the morning on a bicycle from the studio, because I lived in Los Angeles, and I didn't live in a nice part of Los Angeles. It was crazy. They would just throw the script in my yard. We had a big
Like a
gate,
paper
and they
boy.
would just, yeah, paperweight. They would just throw it. And when I woke up at 7 or 8 in the morning, that was my script, and my parents had to rush me to the set, and I had to learn those lines. And that's
Wow.
how I got in the movie and had all those lines. And then it got so like toxic that after 4 or 5 months, Steven sent everybody home. And I did get along with some of the kids. Like, I got along with Dante Bosco and Jimmy Madio, but they made changes to the script because originally I think Rufio, Dante Bosco, he wasn't supposed to die in the movie.
Yeah.
They made changes to it, and then out of nowhere, they just said, he's going to die in the movie. We're sending him home. You're going to work with Robin, Julia, and Dustin Hoffman and Bob Hoskins for like 2 or 3 months, all by yourself. And they sent every kid home, and it was just me on the set with these huge players.
Wow.
And it was just, it was overwhelming, but I dealt with it. And my parents just told me, it's not your fault. Just do the movie. And that's
Yeah,
what I did.
exactly. Yeah. You
You
played
know?
by the rules at the end of the day. You went in, you done the job, you learned what you were supposed to learn, you proved yourself, and you were rewarded for that. And that's commendable.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's why they wrote it into the script that you were going to get the sword? Do you
So
think
the
it was to
sword
pay?
was still never written into the script. So about, I think, 4 or 5 weeks before, Steven Spielberg, he set us down for a bunch of stuff. So originally, I don't want to go into detail. Originally, Michael Jackson was supposed to be in the film. He
I
set us
remember
down.
reading that. I remember reading
Yeah,
that.
Michael Jackson was going to be in the film, so they set us down and gave us rules about Michael Jackson. Like, when he gets here, don't go to him too much. Don't really talk to him. Blah blah blah. He'll be here in a week or two. And then they told us, who's ever good on set will get the sword at the end of the movie. I still didn't care about getting the sword. I was just happy that it had been 5, 6 months. I was still on the set of the movie.
Yeah.
Every kid came up to me, whether we were in rehearsal or um, on the set, and they didn't care. I mean, we had Bruce Willis, uh, Kevin Costner that would just come and visit. Kids kept coming up to me saying, "Hey, Rashawn," or most of the kids call me Thud or Thud Butt. They say, "Man, don't think for a minute you're going to get the sword at the end of the movie." And I'm like, "I don't care." They're like, "You're not going to get it. I have a big part in the movie. I'm getting the sword." Or other kids would come up. "I'm getting the sword. I'm getting the sword." And so, I've always been respectful. My dad's from Texas. I got to be a respectful kid. So I didn't care about getting the sword ever. It wasn't until maybe a day or two later that more kids would come up in front of Steven Spielberg and be like, "Man, you're not going to get the sword at all." So Steven finally said, "Hey, nobody knows who's getting the sword except for me and Robin." But Robin still didn't know. And we went to film the scene, and Steven, I think, came up to me and he said something like, "Hey, we're going to shoot in a second. I know you guys aren't going to know your lines. There's no lines, but whoever gets the sword, just say whatever comes to mind." So just before we shot the scene, Steven Spielberg called Robin over and whispered in his ear, and I will never forget. Robin went, And he smiled, and I saw that. I didn't care. And I won't, out of respect, I won't say the kid's name, but the kid looked at me and tapped me on my shoulder and said, "See, I'm getting that sword." And I was just like, "What?" So every kid's parents came to the set that day. So you got like Bruce Willis, you got like, I mean, you got like the biggest star. You got like Prince. You got all these huge superstars that aren't even, not everybody was an actor. They just came to the set. And it's late in the evening. And they all came to the set and we shot that scene. And I'm still thinking, I'm not getting the sword, but I don't care. I got all these lines in the movie. I had fun. I made a little bit of money. And I was just happy because I could afford to get a super soaker squirt gun. And out of nowhere, we shoot the scene and Robin brings the sword around and then he stops and pauses and brings it to me. And my heart just started going crazy. And when he gave me the sword and said, take care of all the Lost Boys, I didn't know what to say. And that's why in the movie, I literally just say, okay.
Perfect though. It works perfect.
And then the minute I said, okay, Steven said, cut. And then Steven looked at me and said, okay, so you got the sword down. You'll be known forever. So we need to do some extra close ups and some different angles. Say the same thing again. And I'm like, what? He said, say your line. And I'm like, what line? He's like, say, oh, okay. So we filmed it for like 2 hours of me just taking the sword again, going, oh, okay. And I'm still not realizing I got the sword. And man, I looked over and every parent looked like they wanted to strangle me. All the parents were in the background going, this is crazy. All the parents then, after maybe 30, 40 minutes, they all left.
Really?
And I was like, oh my God. And I remember thinking, like, these parents are taking this whole sword thing like to the extreme. It's just a sword. And that was it. That was history. Then they brought me in maybe a month or two later to do looping, like
Oh yeah.
vocals, just to go over and the vocals, the looping was me going, oh, okay, into a microphone.
Yeah.
And so that was my little history on the movie. It was different because I've been on a lot of films and
Yeah.
commercials and TV shows, but it was interesting. But being on that set, it was only those little parts were challenging, but it was like you know, it was like really trying to prove myself, even though I wasn't. I wasn't,
Yeah.
I was having fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
hated
that's
going
what it's
home
all
every
about.
night.
You're only a kid, so.
Yeah, I hated going home every night. When they tell me it was 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and Julia Roberts had to come in and film her scenes, I cried because I hated going home because I wanted to
Yeah.
stay there all night with her.
Ah. So I've got to ask you, and I know you've been asked this question a million times, but what was it like working with Robin Williams?
It was unbelievable. So I'm a big movie buff, team buff. My family is. I don't think the other kids were because some of them were actual actors, but we were all the same age, but they probably didn't grow up watching those shows. So I had older brothers that, I've got brothers, I've got like two brothers 15, 20 years older than me at the time.
Yeah.
When they were either living with us or would visit, all we did was watch Mork and Mindy. All we did was watch, what do you call it? What was it? The Vietnam movie with Robin.
Yeah. Good
Good
morning,
Morning
Vietnam.
Vietnam. So I
Yeah.
saw all that. I already knew Robin from that. So me seeing that and then talking to him about it and him just like giving me feedback about the movies. I only asked him a couple times like how was it on Mork and Mindy, and he would make jokes about it. Like he was not a serious person. Um Robin was I've only saw Robin Williams serious twice on the set. Once was when two kids said some racist slurs to me and they grabbed me by my shirt and he broke character and told the kids off and said, "He's a black man. He's a man. You're a man. I'm a man. Let's get through this movie and film." Second time was when we were filming a scene, the opening scene that they came back and had us a redo, and they had a crane. They had a giant Panavision camera go up on a crane and go over him, and the camera fell off and hit him on his head.
Oh
And they
wow.
stopped. Steven said, "Let's stop filming." And he said, "No, we're going to keep filming." And as he said, "No, we're going to keep filming," he touched the top of his head and saw all this blood in his hand. And he passed out. And when he passed out,
Wow.
I caught Robin in my arms, and he looked at me and laughed and he said, and they stopped production on the film. That was the only time where I ever saw him like serious. But he came back 2 or 3 days later, and he came up to me and a couple other kids and said, "I had my head ripped open. Look at my stitches." You know, and so those are the only two times that Robin was a stand-up guy. He was so cool. We went to the after party. It was only me or myself, my mom and dad, and out of all the big stars there, Robin could have sat with Richard Pryor or um, you know a Denzel Washington or whoever was there at the party. He came and sat and had dinner with myself and my parents all night and just talked about me. And I thought it
That's
was the
amazing.
coolest, coolest thing. And he told me I stole the movie and I stole all the scenes. And people were trying to pull him away. And he sat there all night at our table. So very cool guy.
Yeah, it was so tragic when he passed. It was just even now, just thinking about it, I start to well up because it's just so he was such an amazing actor, and you know
Yeah.
he'll always be part of our history, and he'll live on in his movies, and the fact that you got to be in one with him, man,
Yeah.
what a
You
dream
just
come
you
true.
just never know. But yeah, that out of all, I used to watch the True Hollywood stories about all that stuff. And from people in the past famous actors, that stuff like that happened. It was very traumatic, but you get through it, but you just never know. It's Hollywood, never
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Yeah. So that kind of brings me on to my next question. Like you were obviously a child actor. Like
Uh-huh.
we've seen it happen so many times, like child actors that, struggle throughout their adult life, Michael Jackson being probably the best example of that. How did you manage to stay, on the straight and narrow? Like how did you manage to remain humble and not, you know what I mean? Like not get wrapped up in all that?
Well, it really was my parents. I think it was my parents. I never was into like drugs. I had, after that movie and other shows I did, I had a lot of, I won't say but I had a lot of big time celebrities, even when I was a kid, invite me to their big house parties. I had the Michael Jacksons and all those people. Michael was great. He was a lovely person, lovely human being. But I had people, nobody's bigger than Michael Jackson, but I had the people that were slightly under him that even as a child, they invited me to those parties and stuff. And it was my parents. Um, they wouldn't allow me to go. And I cried a bunch of times because I would beg my parents, "Can I go to this person's house? Can I go to this celebrity's house?" And
Yeah.
it was really my father. My father would say, "You're 13, you're 15, you're 17. Even when I was 18, you're not going to the party." And I'm like, "Dad, I can go. I'm 18." And my dad would say, "Hell no, you're not going to their party." Because I've seen it on the news that they do drugs and all that. And I would say, "Well, Dad, that was just on the news." And luckily, I listened to my parents, I listened to my dad. I didn't go. And unfortunately, 80%, 75 to 80% of all those people that invited me to their parties, they all passed away from drugs. And so I never got caught up with that. So that's really my parents. I hung out with a lot of celebrities at Hollywood screenings, Hollywood events, and it was really sad that their parents, and once again, I'm not going to call out those celebrities. Some are still living, but most aren't. Their parents let them do that. Like their parents let them, when I'd be at those parties, they would have drugs there.
Yeah.
And it was really crazy. I just thought it was insane. Like their mothers or fathers would literally like call the kid actors over and say, "Hey, I got this or that," and be cool with them doing the drugs there.
Yeah.
And it
That's
immediately
crazy.
turned me off because I thought about my dad. I was always scared of my dad. My dad wasn't like Joe Jackson, Michael Jackson's dad. I was
Yeah.
scared of my dad. I'm like, I'm not gonna let my dad down. I'm not gonna do any drugs. But it was just crazy that I would see that and I would go, my dad's right. So and so's mom is agreeing with another producer to let them do drugs. I'm all right. So I would
Yeah.
leave. And there's many times that I went to those big parties and I would see a famous actor and see them on the news a day later, a week later, a month later, and they passed away from an overdose. Just
Yeah, so
insane.
you
So
knew you did the right thing. It sounds like
yeah,
you
so
have an amazing support
I
system.
didn't want to do it. Yeah, I didn't want to do it. And
Yeah,
there are a lot of producers because a lot of people ask me. I've never stopped doing acting. I went back and forth between acting and being a professional magician, and I did like plays and stuff. But I didn't like that some of the well-known producers in Hollywood would take young actors, kind of take them and take them back to their studios or put them in other feature films. Mind you, they paid them millions of dollars, but they also gave them whatever they did, or at least they claim they did. It never happened to me, but I just didn't want to be a part of it. And I'm
yeah,
happy I didn't. I'm happy with myself. I didn't do a million huge features afterwards, but I know the ones that did.
yeah.
And they either passed away or they're paying the price for it now or they're unhappy. So luckily it never happened to me. So I've just
Yeah.
been living a fun, exciting
Good
life.
man. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So one more question about Hook. I've got to ask this question because I've wondered ever since I was a little kid.
Uh-huh.
The scene where the banquet scene where you're all eating food and it's you can't see it because it's imaginary, and then
Yeah.
it's this like colorful. I don't know what it is, and that's the question. What is it? Because it looks amazing. I just wanted to eat a bowl of whatever that colored stuff was. What was it? Was it like fondant or
Unfortunately,
icing or?
yeah. So unfortunately, so they cut a lot of that. So the original film, once they changed the script like 100 times, we I guess my co-star, I had a raccoon as my co-star. So in the original script, and it's not really original script, the updated script, Thud Butt's best friend was a raccoon. At the food fight, but they edited out, I had an actual raccoon that sat there with me at the table. So the
Right.
scene where I make the sandwich and I go like that, and I
Yeah.
put it together and oh God, there was an actual raccoon there. The
Okay.
raccoon
So
kept
random.
attacking me.
Oh no.
I think it was I forget the guy, the famous animal trainer, Jack Hanna. I think
Okay.
he was the animal trainer for the film. Well, anyways, that raccoon, which I don't know why, the raccoon kept leaping off the table, and that raccoon was supposed to be my best friend. It was written into the script months later, and when I got the sword, I was supposed to go back to England with Robin, and the raccoon was supposed to be on my back and jump on my head, but the raccoon kept attacking me. They finally, after maybe 2 or 3 months, got rid of the raccoon, and then when I start the food fight, all the food disappears, and it turns into the big feast. That was just, food coloring, and it was literally whipped cream with food coloring and everything, and,
Okay.
they basically did the food coloring, and then they finally decided after all those months they would get rid of the raccoon. But everything was food coloring, and then I think you see like cheese and uh, chicken and turkey in the
Yeah,
background.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
all real, the meat, but I think they spray painted it and glossed it to make it look
Oh yeah.
amazing. They wanted
Yeah.
me to eat it, but those are the actual scenes where I ate it and spit it out because it was like
Okay.
kind of waxed down. But it looks amazing on screen.
Yeah, it did. Honestly, I just really wanted a bowl of that colored stuff. It just looked amazing.
Yeah, it looked amazing, but it was horrible. Those were the only scenes I hated in the movie
Okay.
because when we started the food fight scenes, and I begged Steven, or I asked him a million questions about it. I asked him, "You wrote this in the script. You changed the script. When are we going to do the food fight scenes?" And he kept saying, "We're going to do it in a week or two. We're going to do it in a week or two," and it turned into months. And then he said, "We have to build it." And I was like, "What do you mean we have to build it?" And he was like, "I don't know, but we have to build it." And I finally realized what he was talking about. I'm the one, if you see the movie, I'm the one that starts the food fight.
Yeah.
Because they talk about it, and then the food shows up, and I tell Robin, I say, "Peter, catch!" And I throw the imaginary food, and he gets it smacked on his face.
Yeah.
Well, the original from that is when I say Peter, catch, a producer told me when you throw the pie, don't throw it at Robin, throw it at Steven. And I said, I'm going to get fired. And they said, no, just throw it at Steven. So when you see me throw it, I actually throw it in Steven's face. So Steven Spielberg gets the pie first. And
Oh, okay.
obviously he's not in the movie, so they edited all of that out.
Yeah.
But Steven Spielberg got the pie first. And then after he got the pie, they went back when they shot Robin getting the pie. That's actually Steven throwing the pie in front
Oh, okay.
of Robin's face. And then when I get the pie again, I think that was like Dustin. It was either Steven or Dustin throwing the pie in my face. So I get it. And then when the camera pulls back and you see all the kids getting hit with pie, that was horrible because all the kids, like the majority of the kids, are background extras. They were
Yeah.
between 15 years old and 25 years old.
Okay.
They threw the pie so hard. They
Yeah.
didn't throw it like little kids. I couldn't hear for 2 days.
Oh
They
no,
threw the
really? It was that
pie
bad?
so hard, I got it all lodged. So I had to go to the hospital and they had to literally take like little tweezers and pull it out. It was bad.
Oh man, that's awful.
Matter of fact, I think I might blow it up. I think I have one picture that my mother saved because she was on set that day, and
Yeah.
she has one or two pictures that she saved me before she passed away of it lodged in my ears. And I'm like, I might
Wow.
blow that up and
That would be
sell
good to
that.
see. Yeah, 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 you
But
should, man. You
I
should.
was in tears. They literally had to call emergency and take me. And my mother and the emergency kept talking to me, and I couldn't hear them because the kids were doing that. And then after I got out of the hospital, Stephen came back to me and said, I didn't like the take. We're going to do it again. We did it all over again.
Did it get you as bad? That's the second time.
Not as bad, but pretty bad.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. Pretty bad. Those kids weren't playing around.
No. Oh man.
But it
But it
looks
looks
good on
good.
camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it looks good. So before I let
Yeah.
you go very quickly, what can you tell us anything about Hook versus Neverland that you're working on? Can you tell us
Oh my
anything?
God. So Hook versus Neverland is a movie that I've always wanted to be made. So I think in heck, maybe 97, 98, I wrote a little script. I forget what the name of the script was. I wrote the script. I was going to take it to the studio. My parents told me the studio's never going to make it. Um, I rewrote the script again and I realized studio's never going to make it. And it was a bunch of backtracking on the original script. And then I think in 2009 or 2010, I rewrote the script and I called it Hook versus Roof. No, I called it Thud Butt versus Rufio.
Okay.
And Robin Williams was performing in Las Vegas at the MGM Hotel. I tried to contact him a bunch of times, never heard back from him. So I just went down with my fiance to the MGM Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. And I talked to the security. They went back. I took some 8x10s. They took me back in and let me talk to Robin. Talked to Robin. I told him he was doing his stand up show. And Robin basically told me, this is copyrighted material. I won't go into detail what he really said, but he said, it's copyrighted material. The studio's never going to do it. I said, okay. So I went back and I changed a bunch of stuff. And I said, you know what? We're going to get rid of the whole Rufio thing. This is basically a Hook 2, but we're not going to make it a Hook 2.
Yeah.
We're going to make it the backstory of how all the children all the children got to Never Never Land.
Okay. So it's a prequel then.
But we're also going to showcase what happened in Never Never Land after Hook got eaten by the croc.
Right. Okay.
And what happened to Peter once he left the kids and went back to London to be with his wife and children and Wendy,
Okay.
and how Thud Butt, basically how he got there in the whole climate of how all of this started.
Yeah.
And I said, if we make an original story, sorry, studio, and studio executives are literally messaging me every other day because
Okay.
they want to know what's the deal with the movie. Do we go on their copyright infringement? And unfortunately, we don't. It's a totally different story, but it's how the kids went to Never Never Land.
Okay.
How Hook is gone and what are the pirates doing, because that was their leader.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun story, and the whole adventure begins again. I've been working on this movie 8 to 10 hours a day, off and on. Originally, it was a couple of years ago. Now it's 5 days a week. I'm hoping and praying to get the movie out by Christmas, but it's a really cool adventure. It's a different adventure. It's fun. A lot of people have been giving me flack online because they're like, "Are you using AI, CGI, special effects?" And yes, unfortunately, I am using special effects.
You're doing it on your own, aren't you? So
Yeah, I'm doing it on my own.
you've got
I
to do
still
it with
have
your boss.
a independent company,
Yeah.
but we're using special effects. We're bringing back, and this is how far we go back in the film. We're bringing back London in the 1920s.
Oh, okay.
So we have real actors, but the background is the 1920s. So we're using artificial intelligence to help us because it would cost us hundreds of millions of dollars
Of
to
course it would.
recreate
Yeah. Of
London.
course. Yeah. And it looks
And
just as good anyway. So
yeah, so it's real actors
yeah.
mixed in with the background. But I think it's amazing. I sit down and I cry every other day just watching the mixture of it, and it's unbelievable. So you'll be able to see everything from the aspect of knowing what happened to Neverland, what's going on with Neverland, what's happening,
Yeah.
and it's just a really cool. It's literally my perspective of it. So
Yeah.
like it or love it, it's just my perspective of what can happen, and it's just magical, and
Yeah, I
it's
love it. I
really
love the
cool.
idea. The idea is amazing. You know, as like I say, as a fan, I've wanted something more for years. You get just this
Yeah.
one thing. I was actually just talking to Gary K. Wolf, who's the creator of Roger Rabbit, who's just got the rights
Okay.
back to. Yeah, I was just talking to him about it, and he for 35 years he didn't have the rights because Disney did, and now he's got them back
Hmm.
again. So now he wants to do all this new Roger Rabbit stuff. And I said to him the
Tell them to
same
put me
same.
in it.
Yeah, I will do, man.
I could be the Black Bob Hoskins.
There you go. There you go. That's a great idea. But like, it's just saying the same thing to you that I said to him. Being a fan of a movie that was out that long ago and not having anything else since. And then
Yeah.
the thought of getting something now or soon is so exciting.
Yeah.
I've got kids now. I want to be able to show my kids. My kids love Hook, but they weren't around when it first came out. And to get something new, I'm so excited. I'm really
Yeah.
invested in this.
And I'm
And I
really
think that,
excited too because I sit here, literally sit here. I have a little mini movie theater in my house, and I sit here shooting stuff and cutting the reels and just
yeah,
going through it. It's fun for me. And the cool thing is because this is independent, when
yeah,
people say little things to me, I get to I get to go back and say, you know what, maybe they're right. I changed little
yeah,
aspects. And that's why
yeah,
people
that's
say,
true.
well, why is it taking so long? But this is the year. I gotta finish it and I gotta put it out. I've already got a bunch of huge movie theaters not just in the United States, around the world that are already interested in having us
Like a
showcase it.
screening.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna put it on streaming platforms. We're gonna do world premieres and screenings everywhere, and I hope they like my little take of it.
That's
It's
cool. And I
fun.
think
It's
if
simple.
it gets to a point where financially you need a little bit of help, I do think crowdfunding would be an amazing way of doing that.
And
And
we
as a
we may
podcast,
go we
we'll
may
help you.
go that way. Yeah, we may go that way. I've literally already put over $900,000 of my own money in it.
Wow.
So, that's why everybody asks me, why are you selling your original posters and pictures online? I'm doing it. It's not to go in my pocket to buy a Ferrari and a Lamborghini. I'm going using that to fund my film and the
Yeah.
cameras and everything.
Okay, man. Well, listen, thank you very much for doing this. This has been absolutely incredible. It's been such a thrill to sit down and have a chat with you about the movie, and I just can't wait to see what's to come, man. Keep us informed. I follow you on Instagram, and even that, man, you're so good at interacting with people. So, what is your Instagram handle as well, by the way, so I can give that out to people?
The Instagram handle is Raushan Hammond official, and then
Okay.
the same thing on like TikTok. I think it's either Raushan Hammond or Raushan Hammond official. Under Raushan Hammond, you can find me on Facebook. Those are like my three major
Yeah.
bits of online social. So
Fantastic.
very cool.
I am so
Uh,
excited now. Like I've got to go to bed now because I'm up for work in the morning, but I'm not going to be able to sleep because I'm just so like I'm so excited. Can't wait to see what happens.
You're going to sleep, and I'm about to keep working. I got a lot of stuff. I'm here at my house. My house is the set for the opening and the ending of Hook versus Neverland. So we're
Ah, okay.
redesigning a bunch of stuff, and then I have three makeshift bedrooms that are green screen studios that we shoot in every day. So I go over everything again and again. If it doesn't look right to me, I'm like Steven Spielberg, we got to shoot it again. We got some hell of an actors. I got to
Yeah.
make it. I got
So
to make it right.
you definitely learned a lot from Spielberg then.
Oh my God. Oh my God. He taught me everything, but his major thing that he taught me, but he never said it, was shoot everything a million times, and once you do, you will get it right, because most directors shoot things a scene one, two, three, four angles. Steven Spielberg shoots it from a million angles. And when you shoot from a million angles, there's no way to get
Can't
it
go
wrong.
wrong. Yeah.
Can't go
Yeah.
wrong at
That's
all.
good advice. Okay, Rashawn, thank you so much. And yeah, you have a good night and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Bangarang. All
Bangarang.
right. Blessing.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.